Hello everyone, back again at Spoiler Alert. A teenager has extraordinary talent in playing blues music. Two cousins of twins plan to open a music shop and invite the teenager to join the shop. However, a bad incident occurred on the opening night caused by the music that the teenager played. That night became a scary tragedy for Black people. Well, what really happened? Let's just discuss it. Here it is, the Full Sinners 2025 storyline. On October 16, 1932 in Clarkside, Mississippi, a teenager named Sammy, covered in wounds, drove his car to a church service. When he opened the door, his mother, Ruth, was shocked, but her husband, Jedediah, a pastor, told her to calm down. Jed asked his son, Sammy, to come to him.
And show them the way.
Jed said, Sammy has received a call of sin. Jed asked Sammy to swear in front of the congregation to leave the sinful path. He told Sammy to drop his guitar. Sammy, who had scratch marks on his face, looked heavy, letting go of the tip of the guitar. Now we go back one day earlier. At that time, Sammy was picking cotton in the garden before the other workers came. After the harvest was enough, he went home. He greeted his mother, Ruthie, who was washing clothes. After that, he went inside and woke up his younger siblings. Then he opened the back door and looked at the sky in the middle of the field. Sammy then felt the floor under his bed to look for something that was no longer there. On the other hand, the twin Cuttings and Smoggs are waiting for someone's arrival. Not long after, a landlord named Hogarth came with his car. After getting acquainted, Hogarth invited them to the wooden sawing warehouse he would sell. In the past, the workers lived upstairs. Twins looked suspicious of seeing the floor that had been mopped, but Hogarth did not respond to their suspicion. Ignoring this, the twins gave money to purchase the warehouse. However, they asked for both Hogarth or relatives to be prohibited from crossing the land area afterwards. Hogarth also agreed. Back to Sammy. He was heading to church and met his father. While chatting, Sammy saw the guitar he was looking for was already under Jed. Jed requested that tomorrow Sammy help him should be jerked. Sammy also showed the results of his training. Even he did not need to read because he had memorized it. After that, he took his guitar and said he wanted to take a vacation because he had worked routinely for a week. Jed advised Sammy not to use the guitar to entertain the drunkard and the like. Sammy did not answer that and only said tomorrow he would come on time during the service. Jed again told that Sammy played with the devil. One day the devil would follow Sammy home. Sammy immediately came out to meet Smoke and Stag, which was his cousin. The twins said goodbye to their uncle. On the way, Sammy asked about the lives of his twin cousins while in Chicago 7 years. They say Chicago is not much different from Mississippi, only there are more tall buildings than plantations. After arriving at the forest, they got out of the car. They entered the bushes around the road to get to a truck covered. At that time, there was a snake there. The twins planned to open an entertainment bar from the warehouse they bought. Stag wanted them to start it tonight. They both would split up to inform certain people to prepare for tonight. Stag asked Sammy to get in his car and leave. Meanwhile, Smoke got in his truck and also left. A few moments later, Smoke arrived in front of a cafe. Smoke went to a local Chinese shop. He greeted the cashier. Lisa and Lisa immediately called Bocho's father. Smoke immediately hugged his old friend. Smoke said they would hold an opening event tonight. In addition to food and drinks, Smoke asked Bo's wife to make a sign. Bo told Lisa to call her mother. Lisa went to their shop across the street and told Grace's mother that her father had called. Grace immediately went to her husband's shop and met Smoke, whom she also knew. She was surprised to see Smoke, who now had a lot of money. Grace asked for a high price for the sign that had to be ready tonight. After bargaining, Grace finally agreed. On the other hand, Sammy asked Stag about the story of their father's death. Stag said that at that time his father made Stag pass out. When Stag woke up, Smoke had already buried his father. Stag then discussed another story. He asked about the guitar. Sammy really liked the guitar they gave him. Stag said it was Charlie Patton's guitar. They beat Charlie when playing cards and got the guitar. Sammy was shocked to hear that it was his fan's guitar. Stag then asked Sammy to play the guitar, just like Charlie Patton. Stag really liked Sammy's voice and his blues playing. They would get a lot of money from his cousin's talent. Not long after, they arrived at the train station. After searching, Stag finally found Delta Slim, who was busking with his harmonica. Stagg introduced Sammy to Delta and told him that Sammy was the best blues player in town. Delta, who was a pianist, couldn't believe that a kid Sammy's age could master blues music. Stagg asked Delta to play the piano tonight at their shop. He would pay $20. However, Delta was already contracted to another shop every Saturday night. He also didn't believe that Stagg would give him $20. For him, even though he didn't get $20 from his contract every Saturday, he was enough because he could buy corn wine. Hearing that, Stagg took his Irish beer and gave it to Delta. When Delta tried it, he was surprised by the taste. Stagg said he had 500 more bottles, and he would pay $40 if Delta would come tonight. Stagg also told the residents that Delta and Sammy would be performing at the old lumber mill tonight. It was the new Smokestack Tavern that was about to open. Stagg invited everyone to come tonight. At that time, a white woman heard Stagg's voice. A female audience member named Perlane was fascinated by Sammy's appearance. Sammy had seen Perlane, who was a singer. When they met, Perlane said that she was married, so she asked Sammy not to be too tempted by her. Sammy hoped that Perlane would come tonight. Sammy, who saw the white woman, told Stagg. The woman immediately came and asked if it was Smoke or Stagg. Stagg immediately told Sammy to leave. The woman named Mary said that she had been waiting for Stagg all this time because she remembered that Stagg had once confessed his love. Mary said that her mother had just been buried yesterday. She thought that Smokestack would come because her mother had looked after them before. But for Stagg, they only needed their mother at that time. Mary, who heard that, was very angry and left from there. Stagg immediately invited Sammy and Delta to come with him because he was going to meet another person. Continuing to walk, Stagg greeted a man named Conrad who was gardening. Con's wife, Therese, also greeted him. Stagg asked to chat with Conrad. Stagg showed his money. On the other hand, Smoke came to his father's grave and laid flowers for him. At that time, a woman named Annie, Smoke's ex-girlfriend, came out of the house. Smoke told her that he had bought a former wooden warehouse to be used as an entertainment store. Tonight was the opening. Annie was sure that Smoke and Stagg had robbed to get a lot of money. Smoke was silent hearing it. Annie invited Smoke into her house. Smoke discussed his journey, where Chicago taught him not to believe in mystical things. Annie said that all this time she had continued to use the cool do practice to keep Smoke and Stagg safe. For Smoke, if Annie's practice worked, why didn't their baby girl survive? Annie didn't know. She touched Smoke's body and knew that Smoke was still wearing the mojo bag she had given him. Smoke took it and gave it to Annie. Annie prayed for the amulet again. Smoke said he needed a cook in his shop, so Annie was the right person. Annie approached her ex and they made love there. Long story short, Smoke took Annie with him. Meanwhile, Stagg also brought Conrad as a guard in his shop. Bo and Grace had also prepared the equipment and immediately headed to the former lumber mill to make a sign. At that time, a man named Remick was seen with a burned body banging on the house of an anti-equality Klan member. A couple named Mark and John opened the door by pointing a rifle. While crying, Remick said the Choctaw Indians wanted to kill him. They had taken his wife. Remick gave his remaining gold so that they would help him. Not long after, the Choctaw came to the house. John and the Choctaw members pointed guns at each other. The Choctaw leader said they were chasing someone dangerous, but John said he didn't see anyone. The leader was a little suspicious and asked John to be honest. The Choctaw asked the leader to come back so they wouldn't be late. The Choctaws took their leave and wished the couple well. John told her husband, Bert, that the Indian had left. However, Bert did not answer. When John looked, he saw that Remick had become a vampire and had bitten Bert. The infected Bert rose. At the former warehouse, Grace is making a signboard called Club Juke. While Bo is installing electricity there, people start to arrive. Delta plays the piano. When Annie serves guests at the bar, a man wants to buy corn palm wine for 50 cents, but he only has 30 cents. Smoke watches him annoyed, but Stagg immediately gives him the drink. At that time, Perlane also comes, and Sammy immediately glances at him. Behind, Smoke tells Stagg and Annie that this is not a charity party, but Stagg says the man worked hard to get 30 cents. Outside, Conrad greets Mary, who comes and hugs her because he has known her since she was little. Sammy himself invites Perlane to tour the shop. Sammy says the twins' father is his father's older brother. At that time, Sammy sees Mary come in. He approaches her and asks her not to be here. But it turns out that Mary has known Sammy since she was little. He invites her to the bar for a drink, but there Grace greets Mary, who knows each other. Mary tells him that her maternal grandfather is a black mix. Mother Mary was the one who helped give birth to the twins. Stag was trapped in their mother's womb, and after their mother died, Mother Mary took care of them like her own children. But now that they have money, they forget to send flowers to Mother Mary's funeral. Smoke, who heard that, said that they sent a lot of flowers to Mother Mary's funeral. Smoke then told Sammy to help Delta play music. After Delta left, Smoke left Mary. Smoke asked Stag to take care of Mary. Stag immediately asked Mary to leave. Mary said she came here to hear blues music. Stag wanted to pay Mary so she would go, but Mary wasn't looking for money here. That made them fight. Stag got up that he had found a white husband who owned a ranch for Mary, so he asked Mary not to bother them anymore. Mary said she never asked for all that. It was all Stag's own idea. Actually, Stag didn't want Mary here because he didn't want her to be hurt by black people. Stag also said that he had been thinking about Mary, but this was not a safe place for the person he loved, so Mary would not be able to be with him. Stag left Mary crying. Smoke watched them from above. People applauded Delta's piano playing. After that, Delta asked Sammy to play a blues song on his guitar. Sammy said he wrote this song for his father, who was a pastor. Sammy played the song. Everyone seemed carried away by the song that Sammy sang. Sammy also remembered before the event started where Delta said that blues music is not forced like religion, but the music contains a magical element where there are certain people who are born with the talent to make music so real. This talent can bring healing to their community, but also invite evil. They and Sammy continued to drift away in the blues song and ignored the fire that was happening. From a distance, Remy, Brad, and John watched them. It turned out that the fire was only in Remy's eyes. The three of them headed to the shop. In a room, Sammy kissed Perla. Sammy started to get horny and had oral sex there. Outside, Stag wanted to enter the room, but it was locked. He heard and knew that Sammy was making love inside. At that time, Grace said Smoke was calling Stag. In front of the door, Brad saw three white people coming and told his friend to call the twins. Inside, Smoke showed Stag the results of their income from the cashier's desk, but many were in debt. Outside, the three of them wanted to join the music party, but Brad forbade them from entering. Not long after, the twins and the others also saw them. They introduced themselves. Remy praised Sammy's voice, which seemed to invite them to come. They claimed to be from North Carolina. They also did not claim to be members of the Klan and respected equality. They also showed their musical skills. Stag seemed to enjoy their game. However, Smoke told them to stop and look for a white-only bar near the city because it was black-only. Remy, who saw Mary, asked how she could get in. Remy said Mary was their family. Because they were rejected, the three of them turned around and walked late. Smoke asked not to let them in because they might bring friends and weapons. They all went back inside. Smoke called Sammy. He told him that Sammy's music was very good. However, he asked his cousin not to develop his career here because the community's economy was low. Sammy himself wanted to go abroad like his twin cousin. On the other hand, Stag told Merritt about the many people who were in debt today. Merritt said that maybe the white people had a lot of money. Back to Smoke. He suggested that Sammy go to Mount Bayou, a small town in Mississippi founded by black slaves. Sammy could develop church music there. However, Sammy rejected the idea. Stag himself agreed with Merritt's idea. He gave her a gun and allowed Merritt to chase the three of them. Back to Sammy. She left the plantation because she wanted to find her identity, but Smoke forbade her to enter a music shop like this. And if he found out, he would kill Sammy. Merritt herself had already left. She saw three white people playing music there. Merritt was interested in their music. She asked if they had money to enter the shop. Bert showed the money they had. Remick told her the money they had was pure gold. They allowed Merritt to take the gold, but they said it would be useless for her. They knew that Merritt's pain could not be cured with money. They knew that Merritt was looking for love and friends here. Merritt was shocked by them knowing that. Merritt also said that her mother had just died. They encouraged Merritt and said they could save Merritt from her fate. Merritt was a little strange to hear that statement. Remick let go of his guitar and showed his vampire eyes. Merritt immediately took his gun and threatened them to leave immediately. Inside the shop, Perline shows off her singing skills. Merritt greets Conrad outside and wants to come in immediately. After entering, Merritt immediately joins in dancing there. Delta, who feels hot, immediately goes out. Conrad asks Delta to guard the door because he wants to pee for a moment. Merritt herself meets Stag and gives him the gold coins she got. Stag is very happy. Merritt immediately kisses him. Stag is afraid because Smoke is watching from above. Moreover, Merritt is someone else's wife. However, Merritt continues to seduce him. On the other hand, Conrad pees in the bushes. At that time, he heard a whisper. Merritt herself invited Stag to the back room to make love to her. Long story short, Merritt and Stag had made love. Stag didn't realize that Merritt had been bitten by the vampires outside. Smoke asked Sammy to call Stag. Sammy looked for Stag and saw Stag having sex with Merritt. Sammy told Smoke that Stag was making love. Now it was Smoke's turn to call Stag. Smoke opened the door to see Stag. After being shot multiple times, Merritt didn't die, guys. She got up and said they would kill everyone. Smoke asked Stag to hold on. Amy, who saw it, was shocked. Stag, who was bitten, was afraid to die. Smoke asked her to calm down. Finally, Stag breathed his last. Smoke was devastated to see that. Delta forbade anyone from coming in and said the event was over. He asked everyone to leave. After everyone left, Smoke told his remaining relatives that Merritt said they would kill everyone. Hearing their words, Merritt became a question mark. Who were they called Merritt? He also invited Smoke to take Stag's body out. However, Smoke did not allow anyone to touch his sister's body. Amy was sure that the Merritt they were facing was a ghost or something, because she didn't die when Smoke shot her. So it's a good idea for them to take shelter inside and leave Stag's body outside. However, Smoke still didn't want to, and instead asked Amy to give magic to bring Stag back to life. Unfortunately, Amy couldn't do it. Outside the room, Grace asked Boo to leave. However, Boo didn't want to because Smoke was her best friend. But Grace was worried because Lisa was alone at home. Boo went out to get her car. Amy and Sammy came out of the room. The others who were still there asked Sammy what happened. They all left Stag's body in the room. At that time, Conrad came from the bushes. Con claimed to meet someone for a while. Smoke told him that Stag was dead. When he wanted to go in, Amy forbade him, because she felt Con was talking differently. Con asked Smoke not to believe Amy. Amy firmly said that Con was dead. The white man outside had killed him, and now Con had become a living corpse. Con said that was a false story. He asked them to let him in. Smoke was also surprised why Con needed an invitation to come in. This showed that there was something wrong with Conrad. Con was annoyed and asked Smoke for his work money. Smoke took the money from his pocket. Amy immediately pulled Smoke and closed the door. Before their panic was over, suddenly Stag closed the door from the room. Stag asked them to open the door and let him into their room. Smoke peeks through the knife hole and talks to Stag. Stag says he's fine now. Amy says she checked Stag's pulse earlier, and he's definitely dead. The Stag inside is not the Stag they knew anymore. But Stag asks Smoke not to listen to Amy. Smoke asks Amy for the room key. Sammy peeks through the door. It turns out that Amy poured pickled garlic on him. This explains that Stag is a vampire. Grace said Bo was outside. Because Grace wanted to pick up her husband, Smoke assured that Bo could take care of himself. Amy asked him to stay here until the sun rose. Grace finally agreed. Amy then invited the others to make garlic water, wood, silver, and holy water. The gun could slow them down. Amy said that so far she had only heard stories about vampires, but this was the first time she saw it directly. So how it works? The human soul is trapped in the body and cannot return to the ancestors. They cannot see the sun. To save their trapped souls, they still have to kill the vampires. When there is sun, stick wood into their hearts. Sammy said this was his fault. According to his father, the music he played summoned the devil. They asked Sammy, who was still a teenager, not to think about it. Amy asked Smoke if he was bitten, immediately stick wood into his heart before he became a vampire. Smoke assured Amy that he would be fine. Suddenly, the other people in the kitchen screamed because they saw a man unconscious, covered in blood. They didn't know who killed him. Smoke and Sammy immediately took him out. At that time, they heard singing from a distance. Seen from a distance, the residents who had gone home were dancing outside. It turned out that Remick had turned them all into vampires, guys. Smoke immediately invited Sammy in.
Every month of May, from me home, my stars in their
Inside, Emmy gave each of them garlic to make sure none of them had become vampires. When they ate one by one, Perlane didn't want to because she didn't like the taste. Smoke immediately pointed a gun at her and told her to eat. Sammy told Smoke to lower his gun. Because she was forced to, Perlane ate it. Next, it was Delta's turn to eat it.
Slim.
It turns out he drank too much beer and became disturbed by the garlic. Delta is confirmed safe. Smoke sees the spilled blood of the corpse and realizes it is beer. The man wakes up outside and asks to come in. At that time, Conrad sees him. He asks Smoke to open the door immediately. At that time, Bo came casually and invited Grace to the car. Grace said the man was killed. Bo said Conrad was just hungry. Grace became suspicious that her husband had become a vampire. Bo asked to go inside to get their things. Annie asked Grace not to listen to Bo anymore. Remy said that everyone thought they were dead. He invited them to join him. He asked Grace to let him in, or they would come to their daughter Lisa. Grace was angry and cried hearing the threat. Remy also said he needed Sammy because Sammy could invite people with his singing, and in return he would not kill them. Smoke did not allow his cousin to come out. From behind, Stage Mary and the others also came. Remy said, Hogwarts is the highest leader of the anti-equality clan. Bert is Hogwarts' nephew. They will later kill the black people after Smoke and Stage buy this warehouse. But Remy immediately came to turn them into vampires. Stage confirmed it because they could see each other's memories. Mary said they would not leave without all of them. They will make heaven on earth. The man who was killed earlier also wakes up and has become a vampire too. Stage invites his brother to join because their world is much more fun. They forbid Smoke from being fooled, and Sammy immediately closes the door. Inside, Grace becomes chaotic because she is very worried about her child's safety. She asks Smoke to stop them right now. Suddenly, they hear the singing of the vampires approaching. Grace peeks and sees her husband's bow. Annoyed by all this, she grabs a machete and wants to go out. Smoke and Annie hold her back. They all grab their weapons and prepare to fight. Remy opens the door and all the vampires come in. At that time, Stage caught and bit Annie. Smoke couldn't help her because Remy held her back. Perlane shot Stage and Remy. Smoke tried to help Annie, but Annie, who was dying, asked Smoke to stick wood into her.
Let's go.
Delta told Smoke, Sammy, and Perlane to leave, and after they went upstairs, he slashed his hand to lure the vampires back. Perlane was bitten. Sammy wanted to come closer, but Perlane and Smoke told him to go towards the sunrise. Sammy went downstairs to run. Remy comes to him and asks Sammy to sing for him. Sammy immediately prays, but it has no effect on Remy, who is not a ghost. All the vampires then approach following Sammy's prayer. Upstairs, Smoke continues to fight with Stage. Stage tries to bite Smoke, but Smoke manages to thwart him and turns the tables. When Smoke wants to stick the wood into Stage's heart, he apologizes to his brother. At the river, Sammy has been surrounded by vampires. This made Remy even more angry and prepared to bite him. It turns out that Smoke had stuck a stick in Remy's chest before he bit Sammy. As all the vampires cried, the sun began to rise. After all the vampires were burned, Smoke invited Sammy to unload the crates from his truck. After that, Smoke gave his car keys and told Sammy to go home, then bury the guitar that invited the vampires. But Sammy didn't want to, because it belonged to Charlie Patton. Smoke said that Sammy had been lied to by Stage. It was their father's guitar. Smoke hugged his cousin and told him to stay strong with all this. Long story short, Sammy went home. He took the wooden end of his guitar to the church. On the other hand, Smoke used drugs to relieve his sad thoughts because all the residents were gone. But he changed his mind. He pulled the amulet from Annie and threw it away. Now he opens his chest containing weapons. A few moments later, Hogwood and members of the Anti-Equality Clan come to the former lumberyard that has become a juke club. They come to kill black people. On the other side, Sammy opens the church door and his father tells him to come in. At the juke club, the big door is locked.
This one is too.
Because of Remix's information, Smoke already knows that Hogwood will come with the clan members, so he prepares everything to finish them off. Even though the black people were finished off by white vampires, now the black people are finishing off the anti-equality white people. Smoke is injured by a gunshot. All the clan members are finished, only Hogwood is left. In the church, Jet tells Sammy to drop his guitar. Sammy remembers all the black people who died because of the strong energy of the music he played. In the courtyard of the shop, Smoke seems to see Annie's spirit carrying their child. Annie asks Smoke to stop smoking so she can hold their child. Smoke threw away the cigarette. Hogwarts called him to give him money so he could be safe. After killing Hogwarts, Smoke took his son from Annie. On the other hand, Sammy did not throw away the tip of the guitar. He took the smokestack car and left his hometown. And on October 16, 1992 in Chicago, old Sammy played his guitar at a music store. Their group was named Perlinis, after the person Sammy had loved. After the show was over, Sammy's men told him that there were 2 people who wanted to come in, even though they knew their store was closed. Sammy let them in. When his members opened the door, Sammy was shocked because it was Mary and Stack who came. It turned out that at that time, Mary had escaped. They sat next to Sammy. Stack said that Smoke could not kill him that night. Smoke asked Stack to stay away from Sammy and let Sammy live. However, Stack knew that Sammy's life would not be long, so he asked Sammy to join him to stay alive. However, Sammy refused because he had had enough of everything. Stack asked him to play a blues song on his guitar first. Sammy took it and played in front of them. After finishing, Stack gave him money and hugged him. He and Mary said goodbye. Before they left, Sammy admitted that even though he was haunted by that fateful night until the violence happened, it was the greatest day of his life. Stack agreed, because that was the last time he saw Smoke in the sun, and that was when he really felt free. They both left the cafe and Sammy smiled a little seeing it. So that was the full storyline of Sinners 2025, a supernatural horror film that tells the story of a white vampire attack because they were invited to blues music played by talented teenagers. At the end of the story, we are explained that vampires can actually still control themselves. It is proven that Stack and Mary kept their promise not to kill Sammy for years.